Howdy, welcome to Office Hours, Writing Help with Megan. I'm Megan Maxwell Smith of Whole Education. And I thought I'd start out this session of Office Hours today with a quick mnemonic. But before I do that, I want to invite anyone who has a writing question or a question about essays, question about grammar to chime in. There's an open seat. You can also put a question into the chat in the sidebar. All right, so a mnemonic to start out with. I love making mnemonics. I need a lot of memory tricks, and my brain and my thinking are really associative. So mnemonics help me make stories that just remind me of the things I need to know. Okay, so here's a mnemonic for how to keep straight the spellings of the three theirs. All right, let's start with T-H-E-R-E, which is how you would say, oh, look, it's over there. If you cover up the T in T-H-E-R-E there, you get here. And then you can think, oh, here and there, those are both place words. I can see those go together. All right, fantastic. I will remember it. Next up is T-H-E-I-R, and that's there as the possessive word. Don't touch that. It's their book, and they'll get really mad if you touch it. If you cover up the T in there, T-H-E-I-R, you get H-E-I-R, which is the word heir, which is the person who inherits and gets to own the star. So if you can make a memory link between there and heir, you can think, oh, okay, those are both about somebody owning something, and that'll help you remember the correct there for the possessive word. And then last up is T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E, and that one's got the word they in it. So hopefully that's a good enough visual cue to remind you that it stands for they are. All right, I know that was a lot and it may be hard to remember, so I want to show you where you can find that all written out for you. If you head over to the Whole Education Facebook page, I made sure to pin that mnemonic right to the top of the feed so that you can grab it and keep it handy. So there's my little memory trick for there, and there. And as I said, I love making mnemonics. So if you send me a mnemonic challenge, I would be thrilled if you called in or put in the chat or over on my Facebook page, left me a note saying, I always struggle with how to spell this word or the difference between these words or when I should do what, when, then yeah, let me know and I will do my best to make a mnemonic because I think that's really a great way to use your thinking style. Sure, there is a grammatical and a language reason why those words are spelled the way they are, but why would you need to memorize that when you could just make a little quick story that will jog your memory? Okay, so you can find that mnemonic for there, again, over at Facebook/Whole Education, and there's a link to it in the sidebar. Again, if anybody has a question, I invite you to jump in. These are open office hours. Okay, Ginger's saying, I have to write a personal statement to get into grad school and have no idea what to say. Any ideas? Oh, that's a fantastic question. And here's the first thing I recommend you do. First, just make a calendar if you haven't already and decide how much time to spend on each part of it. Because a personal statement definitely deserves a lot of time, but you don't want to kind of go on a soul-searching journey only to run out of time and then have to rush through the ending parts. So the very first thing I would recommend is make yourself a timeline and decide when you want to have your very final draft turned in, and then you can work backwards from there. Anytime you're writing a personal statement, really what you want to present is a through line that shows your story of how you have always been planning to get to the point you are right now. Which of course is not how we live life, right? We do a lot of different things and experiences shape us. But think back to being in middle school math or science. And do you remember something called a scatter plot where you would have data and there would be points all over the graph? And your job would be to draw a best fit line. Is that ringing a bell? So you would look for data that was grouped together enough where you could say, okay, this is basically the trend. When you write a personal statement, you want to look for that best fit line. So you look for experiences that go, oh, I don't know what you're going to grad school for, but let's say it's philosophy. So you look back and you find the moments and the points that were part of your journey to studying philosophy. And you create a story from them as if from the very outset, you were totally on that path. Now, you don't want to, of course, make up events and talk about things that don't make sense. Oh, you're applying to law school. Fantastic. So you would want to talk about your journey becoming interested in the law, and also because it's grad school, hopefully you have experience and you have academic, goodness, that's a very loud motorbike outside. You have experiences hopefully at school and also outside of school that you can point to, and absolutely. So you're writing and you have a bachelor's in criminal justice. So was there a particular class that you can talk about? Was there an experience with a teacher? Is there some work experience you had, even if it's volunteer experience? Any of those things that make that best fit line and really show I have been on this track and I'm a really dedicated person. Does that feel like something you can work with? I mean, it's hard without knowing you to say right about that time you fill in the blank. But if you can craft a line that really shows your interest to all those levels, that'd be fantastic. And the other wonderful tip for a personal statement is combine experiences from different parts of your life. So you might refer to a class you took, a professor who really inspired you. Yeah, so Ginger's saying, I'm 33, so I have a lot of various experience. Absolutely, that's wonderful. The older you are, the more experience you have, and the wiser you are. But maybe there's a volunteering experience or a more hands-on experience or a challenge that you've overcome. So within that best fit line, I would say also look for ways to show that you're more than just somebody who's smart in the classroom. You also have the life experience and the overcoming challenges that fit within that. So I hope that's helpful, Ginger. And if you want to ask more questions, you can sign up for my newsletter, which is mostly geared toward younger students, but that would also give us a chance to email. And I'm going to put a link in how anybody can do that, which is on my website. Now, this link in particular is about how to get a free essay checklist as well, but then you'll be on my newsletter and then you could certainly ask me more questions. All right. Thanks so much for the great question. And let me talk a little bit more about the essay checklist, which is what I just posted. When you're writing an essay, there are a lot of moving pieces, and the more you have to think about the boring mechanical stuff, the less energy you'll have for thinking about the interesting and creative parts of the essay. So the free resource that I wish everybody who had to write an essay could use, and that I wish I had when I was writing essays, is this Get More Points essay checklist. And the whole point is put the boring things on autopilot because the checklist is taking care of them and you get to focus on the creative part. So if you're interested in that, you can grab it on my website. Okay. If anybody else has a writing question, please feel free to jump into the open seat or put it in the chat. And let's see, I was going to talk about pronouns next, because how much more exciting could you get than pronouns? When you're writing a formal essay, of course, you're not supposed to use first person I, and you're not supposed to use second person you. And a lot of writers fall into the trap of using one. When one sees this, one can conclude that romance is, and it ends up sounding, in my opinion, very stiff. And it also leaves you with a really big problem of which possessive pronouns to use, so you're not just using one over and over again. One is singular, and English does not have a singular gender-neutral pronoun that you're allowed to use for people, right? We have it, but which is gender-neutral, but you're not allowed to use it for people. So if you use one in your essays, you're going to open this can of worms where then you have to make the decision, do I say he and his, which is technically grammatically correct, but really outdated because it leaves out half the population, more than half the population? Do I do that whole his or her or he or she every single time I need to use a pronoun and make my writing really complicated and convoluted? What do I do? So my advice is skip one and go plural. When you go plural, you can use they and their, the THEIR kind, right? Remember your trick, there and air. And you don't have to worry about isolating one gender or using the he or she, which makes your sentences complex. Not complex grammatically, but complicated, I should say. The other advantage of going plural instead of saying one is that you get to be more specific. You can name the group. So instead of saying one imagines, you could say readers get to imagine, or students get to imagine, or archaeologists or consumers. You can talk more specifically about the group. All right. Ooh, here's a big juicy topic. So the difference between making a claim and proving a claim when you're writing an essay. And this is another big topic. So again, I'll pause and just invite anybody who's watching. If you want to jump in with questions, I'm welcome. Otherwise, I'll just continue yammering on and on. All right. So the difference between a claim, making a claim, and proving a claim. I see a lot of the time when I'm looking at student essays that students are shying away from what's actually the essential point of essay writing, which is spelling out their argument. And they're shying away from it because they don't want to repeat themselves. So they say, well, I've made this claim, Joe is brave. Of course, I don't want to go on and tell you about how I know he's brave, because I already made a claim, Joe is brave. But that's exactly what essay writing consists of. It's spelling out that argument so anybody reads what you wrote and walks away and says, oh, obviously Joe is brave. How could I not have known that ahead of time? So using that really simplistic claim, Joe is brave, I'm going to walk you through what the evidence would be and then what I have to do with that evidence. So I'm writing an essay about Joe. My claim, which would probably appear in my topic sentence, is that Joe is brave. Now I need some evidence to support that. So I'm going to cite the fact that Joe climbed up a tree and got the cat who was stuck up there and climbed back down. And a majority of writers would walk away at that point. Or they might just return and repeat Joe is brave. But how do I know Joe is brave from that? Maybe Joe loves climbing trees. Maybe Joe thinks he's invincible. Maybe Joe is wearing a jetpack. I mean, there's no way to know from that he's brave unless I analyze it. So the key piece that rounds out your argument is your commentary or your analysis, and that's where you spell out step by step why that action supports your claim. So if I then take apart Joe and say, well, previously he had been afraid of heights, or the tree was over 70 feet tall, or the cat was a vicious bobcat, all of these things would help to flesh out why Joe really is brave. And I'm bringing in a little bit more depth to the situation as well. So I'm providing more context. But it's all about supporting that claim. That's where the good essay writing comes in. So if you are working on an essay, make sure you just have that combo all the time. You have claim, evidence, and then your analysis or your commentary, which explains the evidence. Don't just leave people to draw their own conclusions. Alrighty, I want to let you know about another way you can get help with me in addition to the office hours, which I'm going to be offering on a more regular basis. If you are stuck on an essay and you want some one-on-one help, you want my undivided attention for an hour and 15 minutes, you want to work with me, have me see your writing, and give you much more directed points, I offer a writing jumpstart. And this is something that you can use at any stage of writing. So if you're just starting on an assignment and you're really stumped, you've got no ideas, I will help you outline, we'll talk through the topic and figure out a plan. If you have started writing, you got to the middle, you were using an outline, and now all of a sudden you're stuck. Maybe the ideas you thought you were going to use just aren't going to work. Maybe you've changed your mind completely. I can also help moving again. And when the deadline is imminent and you're really feeling that pressure, you're starting to feel anxious, that's another great time for the writing jumpstart. Because what I'll help you do is prioritize. You may not be able to do everything that you'd like to make this your best writing ever, but we'll make a realistic plan so that at least you do as many of the things as you can and do them well. So if you're interested in the writing jumpstart, I'm going to put that link right here in the chat. You can read more about it. And you can follow me on Twitter at Megan Maxwell S, and on Facebook at Whole Education. And I really hope you tune in next time for more office hours and bring me your questions. I love to help people write better, be more confident about writing, make writing plans, and use writing to get the success that they want, whether that's at school or you're working on a summary for a new job, or you're writing a personal statement for college, for grad school. I really love helping people make writing an asset. So that's it for now. I'm Megan Maxwell Smith with Whole Education at wholeed.com. Thanks for watching and happy writing.